got Second Nephi open here, and I'd love to go through a few verses with you, Eric, and get your
Okay.
thoughts and impressions on it. I take this from an old talk by Elder Carlos Essay, who kind of introduced me to how Second Nephi 1 provides a good framework for masculinity. It's Lehi speaking to his sons, exhorting them, and I'll go to Second Nephi 1:21 first. And now that my soul might have joy in you, and that my heart might leave this world with gladness because of you, that I might not be brought down with grief and sorrow to the grave, arise from the dust, my sons, and be men, and be determined in one mind and in one heart, united in all things, that ye may not come down into captivity. Then I'll go back to verse 13. Oh, that ye would awake from a deep sleep, yea, even from the sleep of hell, and shake off the awful chains by which ye are bound, which are the chains which bind the children of men, that they are carried away captive down to the eternal gulf of misery and woe. And then I would go back to 23 and 24. Awake, my sons, put on the armour of righteousness, shake off the chains with which ye are bound, and come forth out of obscurity, and arise from the dust. Rebel no more against your brother whose views have been glorious, and who hath kept the commandments from the time that we left Jerusalem, and who hath been an instrument in the hands of God in bringing us forth into the land of promise. For were it not for him, we must have perished with hunger in the wilderness. Nevertheless, ye sought to take away his life, yea, and he hath suffered much sorrow because of you. And I think there's also, I know these are events that actually happened, but it's kind of a little allegory for the relationship with the self as a man as well. And I just think there are a few things in there that kind of, Lehi calls his sons to be men. And the instructions that go along with his exhortation to be men, a few things of be determined in one mind, united in all things, put on the armor of righteousness, shake off the chains, interestingly, come forth out of obscurity and arise from the dust, but also awake from a deep sleep, the sleep of hell, and shake off the awful chains by which you are bound, that you won't be carried away captive. And those are a few things that I just think are so interesting, specifically that they were mentioned. What do you think of those, Eric?
Well, I think that is a very poetic part of the Book of Mormon. Like the language is really beautiful and
Mm.
conjures like beautiful. Um, it's just beautiful. One thing that I like about that a lot is the awake, arise, awake, arise. He says that multiple times, and it's like the natural man is at a baseline, fulfilling base desires, and he's calling us. And I feel this right now. There's kind of a zeitgeist. There's like a movement of men waking up. They're seeing the state of the world, and they're realizing it's out of control. And so they're looking for answers. They're looking for commonality of people who believe the same. And so I feel like right now there is an awakening of men, and they are looking to stand up, awake, arise, and locking into those to that divine goodness that's inside of them. And so, yeah, I love that language. I think it's great. I think that could be the mantra for men, like all of us. Be united. What are we united in? We're united in Christ. He's the exemplar. I mean, as long as we stick to Christ and have that one, going back to the willing heart, and not have taking Christ how we want to take him, but being totally willing to take Christ as he is, we will be united. That's really beautiful. So I really like those verses. Thank you.
No, there's, I mean, there are so many parallels that you can add to modern society too. I was thinking earlier on before we spoke about what does his instruction to come forth out of obscurity mean? Um, in the context of, he says that straight after telling them to be men and be united and be determined, come forth out of obscurity. And the thought that I had was the service and getting involved and being a light to the world, and the importance of that, especially in today's day and age where we're kind of, I feel like men in general are retreating slightly, but it's like in God and with the principles that you've learned through your faith, and with humility and meekness, uh, come forth out of obscurity. you
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, let those unique things that are given to you as a man um, shine forth and do good. And that may mean something different for other people. That may mean spiritually leading in your home, come forth out of obscurity and taking a back seat and spiritually lead. For some, it may mean get into politics or do something in the community, go and do something. It might mean do well in your job, don't just sit there and take this for granted. Do something. And I find that very interesting with the kind of what we know about the psyche of masculinity and the kind of desire that we all have to keep going and pushing for more. Um, what do you think of that?
Yeah, that's the coming out of obscurity is a fascinating idea. I think there's a lot of nuance to it, but my thought was that right now, the men or the people that make a stand for goodness and truth, they're like they stick out like a sore thumb almost. We kind of know we know the celebrities who are Christians, right? Like there's always the list of the one offs of the people who still believe or whatever. But I think that if we are bound to Christ, we're going to be forced out of obscurity because when you're with Christ, you're not afraid of you're less afraid of consequences. You're less afraid of public humiliation. You're less afraid of what the world thinks of you. And so Christ naturally brings us. It's like this podcast for me. I never wanted to do this. I'm not a good speaker. I don't think that I talk well.
Same. It's
Yeah,
funny
it's like
that, isn't it? We
like
both
I
feel the
don't
same
want
about
to
that.
do this, but God brought me out of obscurity, and now I'm talking to men, and I'm talking to you on this podcast, and my network has grown dramatically in the last couple of years, and I feel like I've been brought out of obscurity because I had a willing heart, even though I didn't want to. I still said yes, I'll do this anyway, and He cleared the path for me. So, yeah, I think naturally we will be brought out of obscurity more and more because Christ will tell us what to do, and we're going to have the courage to do it.